So this interview with Manuj is interesting because he isn't using this in the way, or using video in the way a lot of people are, right? He's not using BombBomb to send personal video emails out. He's not even doing a ton on social media. The way he got his start in the world of videos is by like doing courses and stuff of that nature, which are a little bit more professional and polished in their nature. So it's a bit of a unique take here, but I definitely enjoyed this conversation with him. He has a ton of insights on his own insecurities and fears, from dealing with his accent to all the hateful comments he got in some of his early videos, and the things that he did that helped him work through that, and even the benefits that he's seen both professionally with his audience and personally with his own self-development and kind of working through and overcoming that discomfort. So awesome conversation. I think you're definitely going to love it. All right. Hello, Manuj. Thank you for joining me today. Before we get started in our conversation, around video and your experience with video, I'd love it if you could just introduce yourself real quick to our listeners so that they know who you are and who we're talking to here.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk about my journey with video, which has been amazing and amusing at the same time. To introduce myself, I'm a startup coach and consultant. So we work with entrepreneurs, help them build purposeful businesses, maximize their ROI, and turn their vision into reality. So that happens through coaching, consulting, and training. So I have extensive experience in startup and tech world, and now as an entrepreneur, a lot of experience on how to build a business, grow a business, and what are the sort of the mental aspects that you need to be prepared for when running a business.
Fantastic. And you're host of a podcast as well, right?
That's right. Yeah. It's called Bootstrapping Your Dreams. So as we, if we touch upon that, I'll share my experiences with bootstrapping and, how I figure out things with minimum resources, which is basically out of necessity. So my idea behind the podcast was just to share that spirit with others, that, there are a lot of resources they ignore, and we have access to these resources and we can utilize them to do amazing things.
It's awesome. I was actually listening to an episode on the way in to work this morning. I think you were interviewing whoever runs the author incubator. Really awesome interview there. So to people watching this or listening to this, I definitely recommend checking out Bootstrapping Your Dreams. So Manuj, when did you start using video professionally in your business?
So I'll give you a summarized version of the story. So I was like any typical entrepreneur, trying to figure out what should be the thing that will put me over the edge and fulfill my dreams, and wanted to make a lot of money, be successful and all that, right? And tried everything from writing blogs, selling goods online and eBay and all that stuff. And so few years ago, I needed to get some training on a particular technology that I was working on a project, and I didn't know much about it. So I wanted to get a little bit of a depth in that. And I searched for, a course on that technology online, and came across this site called Udemy. And on Udemy, it's a very popular site these days. You can find pretty much any course on any topic by world-class educators and experts. And so back then it was fairly new. This is like 3.5 years ago. I took the course and I learned from it and implemented it right away into my project and was successful. I was like, I just spent $10. I learned this amazing skill and I implemented it in my project. This is amazing. Like, for me, learning and experiencing new things is the way to grow. So I thought, I have some capabilities as well. I know a few things. Maybe I should try teaching people. And so that's when I started getting into, video making. And I was like, how hard can it be? I'll just record something. I'll just, speak about what I'm teaching and I'll upload it. It should be easy enough, right? And then I started realizing how difficult this whole process is, takes and retakes and fumbles and all that. And by the way, this is all audio only, right? Because I was just teaching technical courses And I was too shy, too scared to show myself on video, and I didn't have any equipment at all. So I said, okay, let's just start with audio.
Yep.
And then audio is like the way we teach, the way we talk, the way we teach online is totally different. And then obviously I had no experience with speaking in a video, so I just wrote down a script and I started reading. And with the mics, I had to try out with like 4 or 5 different mics to get the right sound. I had to empty out a corner in my basement to get a quiet area.
Yeah.
So all these things, like I'm sure you've heard all these stories, but step by step figuring out, okay, how do I solve this without spending a whole lot of money and resources on this. So anyway, I got done with that course in 6 months. It was 2-hour course. I learned video editing and all that stuff, right? And so anyway, I uploaded it. It got some traction, but people started saying, you're reading from the script. Or I'm like, okay, I'm reading from the script, but at least you're learning. The material is good. And I was just like shaking my head, like I'm giving value for $10. Why do these people complain and all that, right? And then I slowly started to, learn from other courses as well. And then I started getting the idea that if I'm not engaging enough, no matter how important the information is, it's not going to get across. I'm not going to be able to connect with people.
Yeah.
Because that realization came when I saw some other videos, and I was like, okay, this is what people are complaining about. So let me try to figure it out. So then I took a few speech lessons, like, how do you deliver a speech and how do you bring pauses in, slow your pace down and everything. So that improved still a little bit. I saw people are getting a little bit more traction with the course. But then, again, a lot of other instructors were doing video, and I was like, man, this is a big step. I hope I can make it with audio only. But then, I still saw that other instructors were gaining traction, like, they were gaining momentum over my topics and my courses. So I said, okay, let's just do it and see what happens. And so I got a webcam, the Logitech Popular 920 webcam.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I think I'm giving too much detail, getting into too much detail, but I hope this is okay. If you want me to summarize it, I can do
it. Well, certainly, wrap up telling the story, but I'm very curious to kind of hear what some of the self-talk was that was going through your head that was holding you back. So maybe we'll get into that once you wrap up here.
Yeah. So self-talk is obviously, I don't know how to make video. I think I'm going to look so stupid. People are going to laugh at me. And, and then I listened to a few podcasts about video making, and they all said similar things, like your first few videos are going to suck. And there's no shame in that. There's no problem in that. Yeah. This is the process everyone has to go through. Even the most famous YouTube stars and everything. If you go back and look at their videos, they are going to suck. I didn't do that because, I knew that, okay, even if they suck, it'll be better than what I can produce. So I had to get lighting and everything. Like, it was such a mess. In some of the videos that I put on, I didn't even know how to flip the image, because I had a logo and some letters on my t-shirt and it was inverted. And I was like, I don't know how to fix it. Let's just publish it and let's just go. And then slowly I started to learn how to do video. And then since I've been doing long courses, they are very technical. So it's not something that I can just sort of say off the top of my head. So I had to write these lengthy scripts, like, thousands of words of scripts. And then obviously I don't know how to remember all that. So the next step for me was to get a teleprompter. So, I started making all these videos with teleprompters. And then I started realizing that, again, I'm able to deliver the content with certain quality, but with the teleprompter, you can tell I'm reading and I'm not connecting again with the audience. So now I'm at a stage where I'm trying to let go of those training wheels of the teleprompter, and the fact that I realize is that if I write the script and if I read it, then I get stuck, because now in my mind, as I'm delivering the script, I am trying to remember what is the next sentence in the script. I don't want to miss it or whatever.
Yeah.
If somebody asks me a question off the, that I can answer off the top of my head, then I can go,
Sure.
I will, pause here and there. I'll think and I'll use ums and ahs and all that, but I can still continue to deliver without, hesitating.
Yeah.
So at this stage right now, this is my hack, is that I have my team. And so what I do is, since I'm learning how to deliver this video without teleprompter, but I'm okay having a conversation like this. So I get them to log into Zoom, ask me the question. I look in the camera, I pretend I'm answering somebody, but I take the footage from there and it becomes the individual video.
Yeah. That's perfect. We always tell people, in a lot of the coaching that I do, to visualize one of your favorite customers asking you a question and then answer it into a camera lens. So you're just literally doing a little more realistic version of that, where it's actually the person asking you.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
One thing that I've done quite a bit, because some of the videos I take, for what I'm doing here with Angari, and some of the videos I take even for like my LinkedIn channel, they're a little bit longer and lengthier, and I got multiple bullet points to churn through it. And even though I'm pretty experienced and pretty comfortable on camera, I still lose my place. So what I do quite regularly is I'll take a little Post-it note, I'll write out 4 main bullet points and stick that right next to the camera lens. No one can really tell it's there. Yeah. Have you ever done anything similar to that?
So I have, I took some another course on video, and what they suggested was a similar thing, but instead of writing the notes, they said put a smiley face on the Post-it note and stick it right on top of the camera, because now, as you said, like you can visualize your customer. So the smiley face was supposed to help me visualize the, a person asking me the question. So that helped a little bit, but there is no match as, talking to a human. So I'm using that as a training wheel, because I know, as kids, you can start riding a bike with the training wheels, but once you get comfortable, you can start to take them off. So that's what I'm doing. I'm treating it as a training wheel until I get comfortable. And your suggestion of using Post-it notes and everything, I mean, those are amazing, and I still do that in one way or the other.
Yeah. So you mentioned you were really scared to get started on video. What were some of the fears that you had about being on camera? Like, what were you scared of getting into?
Appearance, accent, using these ahs and ums, and I say things like, it's very repetitive. It's annoying to me. So I used to think, if I'm so annoying to myself, people are going to be like, they're going to just throw rocks at me or something. And that was a huge fear. And then comes the podcast. And with the podcast, I was like even more scared, because, now I cannot do retakes. It's a live environment. And the first few episodes sucked really bad, because I didn't know what to ask, and I got stuck. And I said, okay, you know what? Like, this is how I'm going to learn. I uploaded them. And to my surprise, people didn't really care about those ums and ahs and all, the accent and everything. They focused on the content. So that was another realization, that as long as the content is good, it has value, then all other things are somewhat secondary. So that subsided my fear quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I'm just getting started with this Angari podcast. Same thing. Every episode I record, I'm like, I bombed it. I bombed it. What did I do? But then, when I rewatch it, I added out a couple of the more awkward moments and condensed it a bit. People always seem to really like it and give me positive feedback. So
yeah.
But you're so critical of yourself, for sure. You notice all the little ums, the awkward pauses, the moments where you use the wrong word. It's difficult, for sure.
So this is the thing, right? Like, before you get validation from other people, you are self-critical, and that was me as well, right? But once you get good feedback, that starts to go away, and that's the paradox we all live in. Like, we are looking for external validation and not having enough confidence in ourselves, and particularly with video, because now you're putting it out there in flesh, and people can see you the way that you are in your natural habitat or unnatural habitat, and it's really scary.
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely agree that getting some positive feedback is awesome, right? So typically, when you're first starting something new, the first people you share it with are people who are close to you, who will, give you positive feedback. And if they got to give you some negative feedback, they will do it gently. So that's good. You should always look for that. But I know a big thing that a lot of people are scared of when being more present, whether that's launching a podcast, doing a YouTube channel, or sending a video email, is they're afraid of negative comments and haters and all this stuff that we see happening online to other people. We're scared to be in that spotlight where they're coming after us. Did you ever feel that? Was that part of your hesitation?
Yeah. So when I published the first course, it was not video, audio only. And then I told you, some people were making fun of the accent and everything. And I was quite sometimes initially it was upsetting. It was like, I'm trying to teach you, like I can't really change my accent.
Yeah.
But then I realized again, this whole thing about fear, like we are projecting our fears by reading other people's feedback, whether that's positive and that sort of emboldens us, and if it's negative, that sort of suppresses us. It's all in our head, right? It's all about what we think about ourselves. And that's another realization that came out of this whole episode of, putting myself out there, which is like a more of a self-awareness thing, that I should not be really bothered by somebody who may be having a bad day, who may be, they're frustrated in their life because of certain things which are not working out, and they need to have an avenue to let it out there. And that's what these people are doing. And so now you can empathize with them rather than getting angry at them or getting upset about what you have done, because they are using you as an outlet to get rid of their frustration. So in a way, we are serving these people as well, right?
Yeah. Well, something I've always used is like my own self-talk to help me whenever I have to deal with someone negative, whether it's somebody rude in a grocery store or a negative commenter online. It's one of the things I always remind myself. I say, all right, I had to experience their negativity and their awfulness for a moment, for a few minutes. That person has to live with themselves their entire lives.
Exactly.
I am so glad I only had to experience a few moments of that negativity, but they literally have to live with that negativity all the time. And suddenly when you have that perspective shift, you're like, you know what? I can handle my 5 minutes of crap you put me through. I'm good. I just feel bad for you that you're always that negative and mean to people.
Exactly.
Dang.
Yeah.
It must not be much fun to be you. And that helps me, work through some of that I have to.
And don't get me wrong, I used to be, and in some cases I still am, like, when you're running 100 miles an hour every day, like, sometimes you get into your head and get short-tempered. But yeah, I went through a lot of my mental issues, and I was really short-tempered back then. And so I completely agree. Like it's not you, it's the person who's spewing out this negativity. They need a little bit of help. And yeah, as you said, like, if you experience it for a short period of time, you can move on with your life, but then the other person has to live with it for a long time. Yeah.
So between launching these courses and being more active on video and launching the podcasts, it sounds like you've had to do a lot of things that you're pretty scared to do, making pretty big steps, pretty big, bold moves that you were scared of. Any particular tips you have for people of how to move into a space that makes them scared?
See, this is where the mindset thing comes in. For me, it was the alternative. There was no alternative. Like, I have to figure it out. And that came through a lot of introspection. Like I need to do few things in my life, which is not related to earning money, but it's more like, I have some personal goals. I have some goals, for how I want to spend my time, where I want to spend my time. And to fulfill those goals, I need this to work. And once I realized that, there is no holding you back. Like, you just have to do whatever it takes. So unless you get into that mindset and really figure out your own personality and the reasons why you're doing things you're doing, it becomes really difficult, because these challenges are scary. And if you don't have something pressing you forward, you tend to give up. Everybody is like that. It's not easy to just say, okay, I'll see what happens. Even if the world laughs at me, I'm going to put myself out there. So unless you have that really strong base of understanding yourself, it's really difficult. And that's why I help people with their mindset as well. Before we talk about business, video, and everything, you really need to get grounded and learn more about yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you brought up there, I mean, I've talked to people about it using different language, but I think it's the same concept of you have to identify really what your why is, what you're chasing for, and why it's so darn important. Because when you can identify that, you will get to the point where you say, I have no other options. I have to get to this point. And this is between it, right? Honestly, for myself, doing this podcast and YouTube channel is similar, right? Where I said, what kind of life do I want to live? What kind of impact do I want to have? What kind of skill set do I want to have? What do I want my life to be like? And I realized part of what was standing between me and that, was this podcast and this YouTube channel. So terrified as I was to launch this, I realized to get the skills I need, to get the relationships I need, to get the experience I need to become the person I want to be, this is what has to happen. But if I didn't have that clear why on the other side that I was chasing after, I could have very easily said, I won't do that. I just won't, right? Because it's easier not to.
Yeah. And you will say, I tried, I gave it a shot. So tough luck, let's move on, right?
So what are some of the things that you are still struggling with now when it comes to, being on camera in a professional setting?
Yeah, it's more like, your mind can race faster than your words. Or the other way around. And so when that disconnect happens and you're talking to somebody, all of a sudden this realization comes that either I don't know what I'm going to say next, and you're saying something, and then in your mind, you're already trying to figure out the next sentence. And that is the confusing part, because now at that moment, the whole thing starts to spiral down, right? And I'm trying to figure out how to anticipate that, how to overcome that, and do that without teleprompter or having somebody ask me a question. So that's the process I'm in right now.
Yeah. So do you have a clear idea when you start the video of what you're going to say and then it falls apart, or do you not even know exactly what you're saying going into it?
It's interesting. If I just have a framework of what I want to say and then just start saying it, then I'm okay with it, just like in this interview. But if I take a moment and I say, okay, this sentence, this sentence, this sentence, that's when my mind says, okay, you are going to say this in this sequence, okay? So remember that. And that's when, that struggle starts to come in. Oh, what did you remember? What was this, and that's the key.
Interesting. So even now you find yourself before the video scripting it out in your head, and then as you start talking, you start missing points on the script, and it all very quickly down spirals from there.
Yeah, exactly. But now as I'm talking to you, like I can come up with new ideas, I can explain it, I can be, I can take a little bit of a pause, which is natural, and there is no problem. But if you gave me a question that you said, okay, I gave you a question, you remember the script, like I will be tongue tied right now. I won't be able to say that.
That's interesting. Anything you're finding that's helping you work through that right now?
So as I said, I think I'm more of a thinker rather than a talker. Like I'm an introverted person, and so I just need to accept that fact that I cannot read or remember scripts. So it's just better to enhance the skill of saying things on the fly. And so this is my next threshold of this is my next goal. And then I want to get into public speaking. And then I realized with public speaking, I'll need to remember at least some speeches or something like that. So I guess that'll be the next challenge. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's interesting. What do you think the relationship between like public speaking and speaking to a video camera are? Are those the same thing to you? Do you think they're different?
I think they're different. I've done some public speaking, not on large stages, but, a room full of maybe say, 100 people. And the human connection really makes it easy. I don't know what is it about camera where you think that somebody's watching you back. And the camera is like right there in your face, right? And so you're under scrutiny. But when you're on a, stage, like speaking with public, you can turn your head around, look somebody in the eye. You're having a human conversation, and you're not getting judged. And you can see the reactions of people, whether they are engaged or not. So I think public speaking is easier, but it could be the difference between speaking in a small room versus a large stage where, again, you cannot make eye contact or these other aspects of getting under scrutiny comes back. So I think we'll have to see how it goes, but that's my take on it right now.
Well, I've heard people who do public speaking before talk about how, some people really prefer it when the house lights are up, right? And they can actually see their audience, compared to some settings, house lights are down, full floodlights are on you, you can't see anything. And I never quite made the connection between that and video, but I think you're right. When you're talking into a camera lens, you're not talking to another person. You're talking to yourself. You're talking to a robot. Who knows? But you're not talking to another human being, which means you start thinking more about yourself. How do I look? How do I sound? But it's almost like just the presence of another person there, like you mentioned earlier in the call, even if they're just one of your employees on Zoom, the presence of another person there suddenly shifts our mindset. So suddenly we're talking to a person, and I don't know, our brain just settles down a bit and lets us do our thing without like getting all hyped up.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. It's like I can't figure it out what it is, but it's.
Neither can I. I'm gonna be pondering that. Like, what is it about the presence of a human that suddenly makes the thoughts flow more clearly compared to when you're speaking to the void? I don't know. That's interesting. That's something to ponder. One of the people I did an interview with in the past kind of half jokingly said he's gonna, start a company that just sells people little eyeballs that they can set on top of their webcam. Similar to how you described the Post-it note, right? Could be a product.
That's actually not a bad idea. Like, it could be an app where, somebody comes up and says, asks you a question, and you can have pretend to be in conversation with a human. That's
oh yeah, no, you're right. An app for your smartphone, you type in a question and a voice reads the question back to you, and then you answer it.
There you go. Let's patent it right now.
Yeah, that's so cool. All right. Well, you've had a lot of, fears and insecurities to work through, ranging from your voice to your appearance to, stumbling and getting awkward on camera, right? You've certainly made some progress in that space. So that sounds like you still have, some room to grow there. What have you found to be some of the benefits that you've seen from working through this discomfort and kind of making yourself get out there on camera?
Yeah. Well, it's all about building an audience, right? The audience, if they can see you, they can connect better with you. When they hear you, in some cases, they may not be able to. Okay, so here's the thing. If you write a blog, yes, you can connect with your audience. But if you can put your sound out there, it's even more intimate. But if you can put sound and video, it's even more intimate, right? And the next level is in person. So the more intimate environment you can create for your audience, the better they will connect, and more people will connect, because now that connection will refer other people in their own networks. So that is, I think, the effect of video, that it brings you closer to your audience, and then that creates that sort of intimate network effect of you getting more and more people involved. I think that's what I've noticed in my journey.
Yeah, and you've noticed that effect happening. You're getting more of an intimate connection with your audience.
Yeah. So and then the other thing is, what I've noticed is you just need to make a few videos so that your audience can see you. You don't have to like go all out and say, okay, I'm going to make 4 videos a day. So what I do is I actually make 1 video a week, but the rest is like graphics or text-based post. But at the very least, if the audience sees me once a week at least, even then it creates effect of them understanding my post, graphics post and text post better, because they know me as a person, and now they can sort of take that context and use it in the back of their mind as they're reading the post as well. So that's the effect I'm noticing.
That's awesome. So those are some professional benefits. Have you seen any maybe personal development benefits come to you because of working through this discomfort?
Yeah.
You've had to go on.
Yeah, as I said earlier, there's a lot of insecurities that we already have, and once you go through this, you realize it wasn't that hard. I mean, it was so scary when I started doing it, but now I'm over it. Like, I'm still not like an expert, but I'm in the middle of it, and it didn't really it didn't really harm me. I didn't get hurt, or I didn't die or anything like that. Yeah. So you think like, okay, you can do this much, then what else you have in your mind that you cannot do? And if you just apply yourself, you will be able to do it. And so that sort of removal of these boundaries is paramount. Then the other thing is dealing with negative comment, dealing with negative feedback. that again strengthens you inside that. Because one of the things I notice, a lot of people who are negative, they don't really produce anything. They don't really put anything out there. So all they have is their negativity. You know, they're expressing themselves. So that's okay, because it's one thing to get critique from somebody who's creative, and then they're putting their content out there. That's not critique. That's feedback, because now you can take it and improve yourself. And if somebody's not producing anything out there, they actually don't even know what they're talking about, like, you know, what it takes to do something. So that realization, having empathy with other people was a huge growth for me.
That's awesome. One of my favorite authors, Brene Brown, her basic rule of thumb is that if you are not in the arena with me, which means if you're not also making yourself vulnerable and producing and showing up, right? If you're not in the arena with me, your feedback means absolutely nothing to me. Mm-hmm. That's a rule of thumb, right? So if someone else is also on the journey of growing and producing and making themselves vulnerable, and they have some feedback for you about what you're doing, that means something. But if it's just those people in the bleachers, right, who aren't willing to show up on their own and make their own content and stuff, then their comments don't even matter at all.
Yeah, case in point, you gave me some really, really good feedback. It was really critical feedback, but it helped me so much to see, you know, how what I'm putting out there, how is it being perceived, and that was immensely helpful. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, I mean, getting that kind of feedback from somebody who understands this world is paramount.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, Manuj. I really appreciate that. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are going to want to connect with you, get to know you better, maybe learn more about what you do professionally. So how should people reach out to you, and how should people get in contact with you?
Yeah, so the best thing is connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm fairly active on those two platforms. And check out my website, tetranoodle.com. There's a lot of free stuff on the website, right on the homepage. Subscribe to video series. A lot of value we provide for free. Subscribe to my podcast, Bootstrapping Your Dreams. And hopefully, if you have any questions, if you need any help or advice, email me at manuj@tetranoodle.com. I'll make sure that I get back to you as quickly as possible.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.